Hi, I'm Andrew, and I heard Jason was over here saying he could design a better commander than I could, so I'm here to prove him wrong. Welcome to an even better custom commander deck tech. Welcome to Thal'Eres the Cultivator. Ah, crap, there's already a The Cultivator. Okay, let's head to thesaurus.com and Thal'Eres the Agronomist. Thal'Eres the Homesteader. The Horticulturist. I've got a good joke about this one. The Clodhopper costs 1 black, red, green for a legendary creature, Elf Druid. It's a 1/4 with lands you control enter the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters, and land creatures you control have menace. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where's the land animation? Well, all in good time. I think an interesting commander is one you have to work with. Payoff, but not enabler. Or enabler, but not payoff. Get out of here, Chulane. Nobody likes you. Obviously, we're going to need some ways to turn our lands into creatures so that we can use those counters. While there are lots of good options, we really don't need that many. I chose to focus on cards that animate our lands temporarily, so they won't be vulnerable to sorcery speed creature removal. The only exception is Nissa, who shakes the world. She and her sister Nissa Worldwaker can both animate 1 land per turn and provide solid ramp. Genju of the Cedars is a cheap way to make one of your lands into a 7/7, and if it dies, you can keep up the pressure with a new land. But the main features here are Rude Awakening, Sylvan Awakening, Kamal's Will, and Life and Death. These cards activate all your lands, allowing you to turn an empty board into a game-winning attack. You know what's better than a 7/7? A 9/9, or an 11/11, or like a 13/13. Come on guys, this is not a hard question. Sylvan Advocate, Earth Surge, and Forsaken Monument all give your land creatures +2/+2. And Embodiment of Insight, Embodiment of Fury, and Scar Guildmage can give all your lands Vigilance or Trample, while also serving as some backup animators if you need them. Every commander deck needs ramp. Because our lands are going to be turning into creatures, they're more likely to die, so we need more ramp than usual. Farseek, Rampant Growth, 3 Visits, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Spring Bloom Druid, and Sakura Tribe Elder are all top-tier ramp spells, and Hunting Wilds doubles as an animator. Oracle of Moldiah and Mina and Den Wildborn let us play additional lands each turn. Elvish Reclaimer and Scapeshift let you sacrifice your lands for new ones, which have a lot of synergies in this deck. Now, I don't really want Artifact Ramp because lands are just so much more useful here, but I still have to include Sol Ring. It is just bonkers good. Card advantage is also very important for any deck. Phyrexian Arena and Sylvan Library are good incremental card advantage for any deck that can run them. Tireless Tracker and the Gitrog monster work well with our lands theme. Return of the Wildspeaker can either draw us tons of cards with 1 huge land, or pump all our lands to secure the win. Lastly, Greater Good and Aggressive Mining let us sacrifice our lands late game to draw a bunch of cards. We definitely want some ways to bring back our lands that have died in combat or were sacrificed for the greater good. Crucible of Worlds and Ramanop Excavator are must-haves. I've also chosen to include Lord Windgrace, Splendid Reclamation, the Mending of Dominaria, and both World Shaper and Titania Protector of Argoth, who serve as board wipe protection. Speaking of board wipes, we want some ways to clear the board of pesky creatures before we animate all of our lands for the final attack. Damnation, Oblivion Stone, Perilous Vault, All is Dust, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon are all great here, and most of them even get rid of other permanents too. But we also need some spot removal. I've chosen Hagra Mauling, Ruinous Path, Reclamation Sage, and Casualties of War. Now I'm choosing to run a little light here, which could backfire, but allows me the freedom to run more synergy cards, which I think is more fun and interesting. Another reason I'm okay with light removal is because of my threats. If you're the scariest person at the table, removal is much less important. Avenger of Zendikar, Omnath Locus of Rage, and Morog Fury of Akum all present huge threats, especially when combined with Scapeshift or Splendid Reclamation. My goal is to build a huge board with these guys, forcing another player to board wipe, then animate all my lands and swing for lethal. I also have Barrage Tyrant, which can fling my lands to get in those last points of damage. If you wanted to, you could play an aggro deck with this commander. However, I'd rather play a slower strategy, building up my lands over time. To that end, I'm including Evolution Sage, Contagion Engine, and Planewide Celebration, which can build up counters on my lands long before I'm ready to send them to battle. And lastly, I'm including Heroic Intervention to protect, well, everything, but mostly my animated lands. And Balagad Recovery, which is a nice bit of recursion that can also be played from my graveyard as a land. Now, Jason's over there telling you lands don't matter.
It doesn't matter what lands you play.
Well, that's actually true for most decks, and you could definitely make do with whatever you have here. But seeing as this is a very land-focused deck, there are some important decisions here. Obviously, I want creature lands because they can animate themselves. I'm including all 3 duals and all 3 monocolors, as well as Crawling Barrens and Inkmoth Nexus, which has double synergy with Proliferate. Speaking of, Karn's Bastion is awesome. Llanowar Reborn has an alternative use for its counters. Dryad Arbor is one you don't want to draw early, but it comes pre-animated. Drownyard Temple and Cascading Cataracts are really hard to get rid of. Gruul Turf and Golgari Rot Farm can bounce our lands that we played before our commander, allowing them to re-enter and get counters too. And Field of the Dead is just amazing in this deck. I've also got Bojuka Bog, Castle Lochthwain, and Nurturing Peatland for utility, and then your standard fixing package of shocks, fetches, bikes, battles, basics, Tri-land, and, of course, Command Tower. Again, you can play this deck without all the fancy frills, but this is what I would include in an ideal package. If you don't have fetches, you should include Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds for double landfall triggers. I'm very excited to play this deck. I had to make a lot of difficult cuts, and I know there's a lot of different directions that you could go with this commander, so feel free to let us know how you would build this deck. Sorry, Jason. My voice is giving out. You just edit out this part. Whew.